what exactly is Iranian Americans for Liberty?
So the Iranian Americans for Liberty, or as we're also known as IAL, is a bipartisan group of Iranian Americans that are working together here in the United States of America to support and strengthen U.S. foreign policy as it relates to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Last year in 2021, we had the great fortune and pleasure to host 16 members of Congress for virtual congressional meet and greets. We were involved behind the scenes with 7 congressional oversight letters and also a very large House resolution that hit the floor in November of last year. So our main focus is making sure that we do everything that we can to engage and advocate with not just members of Congress, but with the American people as a whole. And we do that through the media and through a lot of other ways as well. But, you know, we take a very strong stance against the Islamic Republic of Iran and a very strong stance in support of the freedom and liberty-seeking Iranian people.
Gotcha. And of course, it goes without saying there is a profound difference between the Iranian regime and the people of Iran, who are probably the biggest victims of that regime, especially when it comes to their rights and liberties. But Brian, tell me, have I got this right? It seems to me that if we just go back in time a year and a half to when the Trump administration was still in power, Iran seemed to be on its knees. The previous Obama-Iranian nuclear agreement, that was torn up. There were all kinds of sanctions. Soleimani was executed. And now, suddenly, with the Biden administration in charge, we're on the cusp, potentially, of the regime of Iran getting nuclear weapons. How is this possible?
Well, you know, when the leader of the free world, if we can still call Joe Biden that, when he's projecting weakness onto the world, our adversaries such as China, Russia, and of course the Islamic Republic, they're going to take notice of that. They're going to take advantage of it, and then they're going to exploit that. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And you made a good point. During President Trump's tenure in the White House, the Islamic Republic was really on life support in a lot of different ways. In fact, in the last couple months of his administration, the Islamic Republic was down to, I think, either $3 or $4 billion in international reserves. That's what the IMF had been reporting. Now, $3 to $4 billion to you and me is a lot of money, but $3 to $4 billion to a sovereign nation like the Islamic Republic is keeping the lights on maybe for a month or two. And that's, you know, President Trump's maximum pressure campaign was really working, and it really isolated the regime. And it really got them down to, as I mentioned, $3 to $4 billion. Now, the unfortunate news to report to you and to your audience and to the Canadian people is that as of last year, after one full year of Joe Biden in the White House, the Islamic Republic's international reserves grew from $3 to $4 billion to over $40 billion. And in addition to that, they're also selling around $1 billion a month in crude oil to China. So, yeah, the Islamic Republic has very much benefited from a Biden administration. And it looks like it's all signs pointing to Biden and his team trying to do everything that they can to strike a new deal with the Islamic Republic. But quite honestly, I don't think there's going to be a deal. I think if there was going to be a deal, it would have happened already. Biden and Robert Malley and the entire team, they've already said that they're going to lift every single economic sanction that possibly is out there. So what more would the Islamic Republic of Iran want from us to do a deal? And I think that kind of gets to the point that I'm making here, is that I don't think they want to do a deal. I think they want to do as much as they can to buy time so they can enrich uranium, so they can build their relationships and influence with Russia and China. And then at the end of the day, they're just going to say, oh, you know what, we're not ready for a deal with you guys. And you know what, it's going to be the American people that look like fools.
But Brian, please help me connect the dots here. I don't understand what America gets in terms of making Iran more powerful, richer, getting nuclear weapons, etc. Why would the Biden administration, whether there is a deal or not, why would they think this is good for the domestic interests of the United States and, for that matter, the free world?
It's one of those head scratching moments, right? It doesn't make much sense to anyone like me who is in the foreign policy world every single day, and let alone does not make any sense to the average American that maybe thinks about foreign policy once or twice a year. This new deal that Biden is trying to strike with the mullahs in Tehran, it's a bad deal for America. It's a bad deal for our allies in the region like Israel, like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and other Arab countries. And also, and most importantly, it's a bad deal for the Iranian people. If we unfreeze billions of dollars of economic sanctions, the Islamic Republic has a track record of what they're going to do once we unfreeze those assets. They're going to push more money out the door to their terrorist proxies like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis, and the 50 other terrorist organizations that they support all throughout the world. So it's pretty clear what's going to happen if they are able to get their hands on billions of dollars of through us lifting economic sanctions. But the final point here is, yes, the American people do not stand to benefit in any fashion whatsoever from a deal with Iran, from diplomacy with Iran. We need to further isolate this terrorist regime and stand with the Iranian people. It sure would be nice if President Joe Biden would say that once. Say the words once: I don't stand with the Islamic Republic, but I do stand with the Iranian people, and he will never say that. And that really is concerning, and it's really a head-scratching moment because it doesn't make any sense to me, and it doesn't make any sense to the average American in terms of why we're engaged in diplomacy with the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.